I'm here with Geoff Feiss, the GSA Foundation President, and Jack Hess, the Executive Director of the GSA. Gentlemen, you are both stepping down from very prominent roles. What's been some of the highlights for you doing what you do?
Well, I would say over the last 13 years that I've been in the job, I would say there's probably three real highlights. One, when I came on board, the society was not very engaged in public policy, the intersection of science and policy making. And so one of the things we managed to accomplish over that period of time was actually open a small office in Washington, D.C. to increase our ability to have some influence and, as we say, quote unquote, educate the decision makers. And the other was the society was not very engaged globally. I've spent a fair amount of effort, and so the other leadership of the society, trying to just interact with other societies around the world. And I guess the third would be, over the last 5 years, thanks to Geoff coming on board at the foundation, we've brought the two organizations together in a way that really makes it stronger for both.
Great. And Geoff, for you?
Well, Jack just took one of mine. But it's true. I mean, 5 years ago when I came on to the foundation, the relationship between the society and the foundation had eroded a bit. It was a bit frayed, and it really needed to be built up because we don't exist for any purpose other than to support the programs of the societies. And we're doing what we want to do, which is transfer money on an annual basis to the society. This year we'll transfer over $1 million, and that's probably more than twice what was happening when I first came on.
Absolutely. And Jack, so where do you see the society headed now as you're passing the reins?
There's always some new and better things that somebody coming in can think of to do. The real challenge facing the society right now, and actually a lot of other societies, whether they're geologic or in any of the science disciplines, is this thing called open access. So GSA is in the process of moving all of our journals to what we call gold open access, starting in a few years, and it'll be spread out over a few years. But that's a challenge because we derive a fair amount of our net revenue from the sales of our journals. So it's a whole new business model. So that's probably the biggest challenge facing the society in the future right now.
Right. And now you're stepping into the role as foundation president, and big shoes to fill. Lots of great fundraising efforts already done by Geoff. Do you have any advice for Jack?
Well, Jack has just handed himself the challenge.
Right.
That's the great thing about this, because the challenge to GSA is the challenge to the foundation. The challenge to Jack is now the challenge to Jack.
Yes.
Well, so where do you both see the future of the geosciences headed?
It's an expanding science, and by that I mean is, I think when we were both going to school and through our earlier parts of our career, it was pretty well defined, what geology was, or geoscience, or earth science. But as time went on, we realized that all the exciting things are happening at the intersections of other sciences. Well, I mean, one of the things that I like to point out is sort of bringing in the microbiology. There are a lot of things we thought were sort of abiotic processes we now know are driven by the microbiology. And so that's a field, and that just keeps expanding. The other thing is, as our current president, Hap McSween, his field, planetary geology, that can't go anywhere but expanding.
And where do you see on the horizon?
Well, I say that and is sort of more expansive. We're moving to what we call systems science, and that is that the complexity of natural systems with time and multivariate systems. You can't just dissect it and reduce it to a given narrow little focus, which is kind of, as Jack said, that was our tradition. You were trained narrowly to do a certain set of things. But the problems that have to be solved now require deep understandings, not just of these multiple disciplines, but then how they come together as very complex systems. And that's where the work of the planetary people come in. If your only example is the Earth, then you're limited. But now, as we suddenly learn about what happens on Mars, what happens on Jupiter's moons, we begin to see, wait, there are other ways that this can operate. I don't think that the 21st century is just a century of biology. I think the 21st century is the century of earth science.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, you heard it here. And we've certainly seen a lot of the intersection of all the multiple disciplines through the several days we've been here. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Yeah.